This is Kei Constantinov.
Right.
She is with me today on Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. And we're going to hear about how she ended up in Michigan City doing what she does. So, Kei, you are a painter, I think. Is that what I should call you?
I'm a painter and a writer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would own Scrivener too.
You would?
Yes, I would.
Just like me. I own that too.
Do you?
Yeah. It's like, I call myself sometimes a word merchant.
Right. A wordsmith, word merchant. Yeah. In fact, all of the puppets and the gondola are for that purpose. Yeah, to promote that.
And how did we get here? What brought you to Michigan City?
I was born in Michigan City.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I was born in Michigan City in Trail Creek.
Uh-huh.
And left and couldn't wait. My father took us traveling quite a bit, so I knew there was an other world.
Uh-huh.
And although the 50s weren't that bad, compared to how they are now. Anyway, and so I knew that I was going to live elsewhere, and I started putting notches on my bedpost. By the time I was 14, I was like out of here in my mind. So I left home at 18. I traveled like a lot of people, boomers did. The living was easy.
Right.
And I traveled. I lived various parts of the country, messed around, had lots of friends in different pockets. Mm-hmm. And then, I lived in Manhattan several times, okay? And so my life is really a crazy quilt. But anyway, I had a boyfriend in Manhattan who used to close his office and go to Alaska every summer. And so he asked me would I go with him, and I thought, sure, why not? And so we drove up the Alcan, and I think the thing that made me want to separate from him was that we were in a canoe and we were out in these Finger Lakes, and we had an Indian guide and that sort of thing. And he had insisted that we take 45s with us because he had saw himself in an adversarial relationship with the landscape. So, and he shot a duck at pretty close range when we were out and I thought okay, that's it.
This is not the guy.
And so when we got back to Fairbanks, I said, Donald, why don't you go back by yourself? And I'm going to stay here. So anyway, I did wind up staying there. Then I met some people who were engaged in Seattle in school, and I went to the Factory for Visual Arts, where the Seattle Opera was there. Pacific Northwest Dance was there, and the Factory for Visual Arts. They were all in the Good Shepherd Center, which was a home for wayward girls on Capitol Hill, and it sat way up on a hill, and it was neoclassical. It was wonderful. And so that was how I got into art school.
I love this.
So anyway, then I got into regular college and went to several different colleges and sort of tried to up the ante in terms of quality of my education, and wound up ultimately getting my MFA at UMass Amherst in the Five College area, which was really satisfying, and which I always those were the halcyon days, really. And oh my gosh, that's so. And then I wound up in Manhattan again. I taught art after school. I had a boyfriend who lived in Manhattan, and I taught art for 7 years there. And that's where I met my son's father, who was classical music and opera, and a Grammy Award winner. He was sort of a trophy husband. He wasn't a great husband, but he was a trophy husband, whatever, some compensation. And so, and then we moved to Westchester, which was not a good situation, but he thought that was the good life. That's what you did when you were, successful. So we did that. Then I decided I wanted to do my PhD. And I said, I'm leaving. He was traveling all the time. He had an office in Tokyo and Hamburg and Manhattan. So he was traveling. And I, in the interim, had Yanko.
Yes.
So I said, okay, this is enough of this. You know, we were on acreage, and I was like, you know, let's move to Hyde Park. If you don't go, I'm going anyway. So we moved to Hyde Park, and then I was a returning scholar for a short time, but the tug to do art was still stronger. So I had a studio in the Fine Arts Building.
I love the fact that you're saying yes to the art.
Yeah. I don't like the fact that I'm saying I so much.
That's true, but you are saying yes to your life.
Yes, but
And to your
if I were
joy.
writing it, I would edit all the I's out. I would never start a sentence with I. So
Okay.
anyway, so
you were in Hyde Park.
then we were in Hyde Park, and Christian didn't like it then, and he decided he was going to move to Ann Arbor, and I could go with him if I wanted. And so I thought, okay, let's, you know, the gypsy troupe packed up and we went there, opened the bed and breakfast. In fact, I did it. That article I sent you makes it sound like it was all him. I did everything. I designed 22,000 square feet. I did it. And that was really the reason our marriage really finally broke up.
And this is the old Unitarian church in Ann Arbor?
Yes, it was.
You bought that?
Yes.
And transformed it?
Yeah.
You are amazing.
No, it was really, I mean, it was an incredible art project. Really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
it's called The Artistry of Life.
Yeah, I guess
it shows up and says, please do this, and you have a response to it, and you say, okay.
Right. It was such an opportunity just to apply all the skills that I had so far.
Right.
And so, but then I got stuck, you know, being the shopkeeper.
Right.
After I designed it, which took a number of years, but then I was there for 16 years, which was about 6 years too many, and divorced. And then I was so tired by the time I was able to sell, I said to Yanko, let's just go back to Michigan City and visit some relatives, and then we'll decide what we're going to do.
This is your son.
Yes. And so we did that, and my former childhood home in Trail Creek happened to be for sale. There was a for sale sign in front of it. And so, you know, my brother had been sort of caretaking it, such as it was. But anyway, there were a few folding chairs and a card table and a lot of dust. And so we were trying to sort of, you know, we bought a couple of things, pillows like or something. Well, you know, I think we brought sleeping bags or something initially, because we thought, well, we're really not staying. But in fact, I met the people who were in charge of the people from Kill in Minneapolis who were putting together Art Space, and started having coffee with them. And I did we went to a couple fundraisers for that. And I thought, and then I met the plein air painters and Lynn Lyon. You know Lynn Lyon.
I do.
I loved Lynn Lyon.
Yes.
Oh, and Harvey was in my writing group at the library. And the two of them, they were so wonderful. And I was so sorry to see them go. But anyway, so I got sort of, you know, seduced into staying. I thought, something could happen here. What the heck? You know, and Yanko really liked it. And he was, you know, he was anxious to spend time with relatives, and because he hadn't had that much opportunity because I was always so busy in Ann Arbor. So, and then, you know, one day follows the next, and pretty soon you're in the future. And then pretty soon there's a past, and, you know, and it just time, the river of time, it just, so we've been here nearly 8 years, and every time I have less of a knee-jerk reaction when I say that now than I did before. I used to wake up every day and think, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm getting out of here. What am I doing here? But now I'm like, okay, it seems like I'm having a life. I have friends. I have a nice studio. Am I having a life yet? You know, and but I still do think, not as often, but I used to think about being in New York all the time.
Really?
Yeah. Well, don't you think about being on the East Coast often, or not? Have you stopped?
Sometimes. I actually just read an article about Bath, Maine, And Bath, Maine, if I were moving to the East Coast, it is pulling because it has fiber and all kinds of people there who are working in that kind of medium. And I
spinners
like,
and carters
well,
and all that.
And a small town with a community that is embracing the downtown again.
Right. Do you know, Chesterton, when I was there, they have a spinning and.
Oh my God, that place is amazing. 3 Moons.
Yeah.
I live there.
I was really surprised to see that. I thought,
It's new. Do you know it's run by a lawyer?
Are you talking about the person?
Rebecca?
Yes. Yes.
She is a lawyer by training, but her heart is in fiber.
Right.
And her father was working with a crew that was going to demolish the building. And the more she looked at the building, the more she thought, oh my God.
Because it was just open plan and everything?
Right.
The looms in there are gorgeous.
Oh, and the spinning
wheels.
Where
do they get the looms? Are those
People
private?
Donate them.
They donated them?
Yeah. I mean, or, you know, there are all kinds of people all the time who want to get rid of their equipment.
Like pianos and things like that.
Yes,
They're always who just want to dump their piano or their or their
So
looms.
what kind of work are you into today? What are you working on?
Well, I'm finishing the movie/book trailer for Mechtild's Medieval Adventures, finally, because and I do have a publishing conference coming up in March that I paid for almost 3 years ago now in Chicago that was canceled twice. So yeah, I'm trying to interest somebody in the movie industry in my novella. So I took a segue and I had an old puppet from years ago and who was Dante Alighieri. And I looked at him, and I thought, he's not really all that attractive. I can do better than that. If I'm going to really do a really killer book trailer or movie trailer, I need to, up my game. So and then I thought, okay, well, I have to do, I transformed him into Marco Polo, who was the father, and then of my main protagonist, Mechtild. And then I had to build the female counterpart, the Venetian courtesan, who is the mother then of my main protagonist. And then I have the skeleton over there who is the narrator. And I built a gondola and I had no idea, I tend to want to push things as far as I can go. And so I took the couch that was here and I started building. So that's the chassis. And I'm just applying the stern and the prow. Isn't that what they're called? And I have the back end nearly finished. And then I can stick the puppets in there and Dan Schaff is supposed to help me with this. So
I love this.
And I think he'll put a green screen, he'll do a green screen so that we can put an old picture of the Rialto, the Rialto Bridge and Old Venice.
So in some ways, you seem to be bringing the past present.
Yeah, it's all sort of neo-medieval. In fact, there's a drawing that I have over here that Jane had a fellow come in the other evening just to sketch from the live model. And so I went in there and she said he would be costumed, I guess, as opposed to naked.
Okay.
He would be costumed, and I thought, oh, a costume. Well, I hope it's a plumed hat and well, he was in, de rigueur attire for a Michigan City guy, and not to disparage that, but, it wasn't. So what I did was I sketched his face and I'll put the, from the photo, I'll put the face and the hands in, and then I will probably make it look medieval because that's what I always do for some reason. So good. Yeah. So.
Well, it sounds like you're on a great adventure and I love it. I love your studio. We're sitting in here today and it's been great talking with you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
And thank you for joining Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living, Kei Constantinov. See you
Thank you.
later.
Bye.